Today we talk about the CCP's takeover of the United Nations and the reason behind China's cover-up in 2020. Hello everyone and welcome to the first video of the day. Let's talk about China. As usual, you know on this channel we've been focusing a lot on scrutinizing the CCP, and especially since some of the CCP members have decided to block me on Twitter. But it doesn't really matter because we have some news, especially from Ian Duncan-Smith and the top Tories in Parliament who have been doing a lot of digging about the Chinese cover-up. First, let's talk about how the Chinese government have completely taken advantage of the platform that the United Nations have given them over the years. The UN Watch, an official Twitter account that belongs to the UN, essentially actually tweeted this out, this statement coming from the Chinese government that came out to actually criticize Australia. We know exactly why they did that, by the way, we're going to talk about that. Criticize Australia's record on human rights.
First, take actions to combat racial discrimination, hate speech and violence, and protect the rights of ethnic minorities. Second, protect the rights of migrants and close offshore detention centers for migrants. Third, thoroughly investigate the war crimes committed by the Australian military overseas military operations, pursue the responsibilities of perpetrators, and prevent impunity and recurrence of similar crimes. Fourth, eliminate systematic discrimination against Aboriginals and combat violence against them. Fifth, stop using false information to make baseless charges against other countries for political purposes. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is actually not the first time they've done that. So recently, Chinese government have realized that they have a lot of power. So they've been criticizing the Australian government because Australia have been very robust in terms of the criticism of the CCP, especially in terms of the 2020 cover-up. They've also come out to impose sanctions on 28 American nationals, including Donald Trump administration officials Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, and a number of others, specifically Steve Bannon. The interesting thing about this whole situation is that over the last few years, the CCP have slowly infiltrated various areas in the United Nations and other international bodies, including the World Health Organization. Now that they've made this deal with America about a year ago, over a year ago before this whole thing kicked off, and now recently a new deal with the European Union, and the United Nations somehow keep giving them platforms, they're taking advantage of this. So it starts from here, but then when you look at how they are treating the European Union, this is quite fascinating. So China and the EU agreed to a deal recently, which is, everyone's been criticizing it because they say, why is the European Union so desperate to make deals with these people? And now China feel that they basically own Europe because the deal is primarily based on investment and Chinese investment. So they've now come out to directly criticize the European Union for lashing out against what's happening in Hong Kong. So China now feel more empowered to be able to criticize Brussels because they said, well, Brussels are so desperate, they want to deal with us, that, okay, we're going to stand up to them. So, they tell Brussels you're no longer allowed to criticize what we're doing in Hong Kong or other places in general. Same thing they did with the United Nations and World Health Organization. Same thing they did with Iran when they made that deal and bought Iran, essentially, on the oil and gas deal and everything else that they've been doing. The same thing they did in Central Africa. This is a classic CCP tactic where they make you owe them favors, and then they just tell you whatever they want you to do. So that's what's been happening. Beijing in general have been very, very upset with Australia and America, and now the UK in terms of the whole issue of Hong Kong and human rights. Now that some lawmakers from Brussels come out to say the same thing, Beijing have come back and said that they have hinted, saying that this whole deal could be undermined. They said that you have to face the reality that Hong Kong now has been returned to China. And interesting enough, one of the foreign ministry's spokeswoman, the same person who's blocked me on Twitter now, has said that this resolution showed that some MEPs had confused right and wrong and engaged in gross interference in the affairs of the China's Hong Kong. Are you joking? It's absolutely embarrassing how Brussels have been very quiet on this. and they just allow China to completely come out and criticize them. Some members of the European Parliament, which is not a real parliament, are upset, but that's all we have. On the other hand, when we have people like Jacinda Ardern, whose government is quite close to the Chinese Communist Party, compared to Australia, New Zealand have been very much, hand in hand on a number of issues with China. She's come out to basically celebrate the fact that Joe Biden is now the new president and Trump is gone. We know that the CCP are quite happy with the way the European Union have been run. The CCP are probably really happy about Joe Biden being president. And now Jacinda Ardern, who's right in the middle of all this, is also happy.
You've been quite diplomatic about your, let's say, relationship with Donald Trump. I guess now that he's gone and you're unshackled from those diplomatic ties, could you tell us how you really feel about Donald Trump?
Look, it will be obvious to everyone in New Zealand and anyone, actually, that obviously, you come into politics often with very different perspectives than some of the other world leaders that you work with. I mean, that's obvious. But our job has always been to make it work, our relationships on behalf of our countries. It's obviously a lot easier to do that when you have a few more shared values.
Yeah, so all this is happening, and at the same time, as I said, the cover-up that we had in 2020 is now being exposed. Ian Duncan-Smith has written an article in The Sun. He's actually part of the senior members of this new China research group in Parliament that's been set up to expose the cover-ups, but also just push the government to change our relationship with China. He's now discovered that China essentially saved $1 trillion, a deal worth $1 trillion by covering up the whole thing in early 2020. It is actually interesting how we knew that there were a number of reasons that China potentially did this. Again, this is all, it needs to be confirmed properly after proper investigations. Now, the WHO investigators are now in China, but even they haven't actually been asked to inspect the laboratories in Wuhan. So why are they even there when they're not even checking the main hot points and the main places that we know the leaks apparently came from? They're not really doing a proper investigation, but when the whole thing starts properly, when Western governments actually get together and when New Zealand decides to join the alliance of the Five Eyes again, then we could have something in return. Because, as IDS says in this article, in late 2019, China was so desperate to stop the US sanctions, which was obviously costing the Chinese economy further $1 trillion, that they had to make a deal with America. And they did. In December 2019, they made a deal, and that deal was to be signed off by 15th of January 2020. Now, this is the same period that the outbreak happened properly, and that's also when the CCP told the WHO that, oh yeah, this is not a big deal, guys, everything's fine, don't tell the West that we have a problem. They needed to make sure that this deal is signed so they could save that $1 trillion, because these sanctions would have completely destroyed the Chinese economy, at least short to medium term. Now, this is a big deal, and this is what we need from the United Nations to use as an investigation tool to actually go into Beijing to find out what's been happening. Right now, all we have is this, and how the US government are now claiming that the leak came from the biological labs. So again, these are speculations, clearly based on some sort of evidence. We just need them to be confirmed. This is the reality that we're dealing with, and all the cover-ups. That's the reason that the whole world is now in this crisis, because China decided not to be, truthful and transparent. Now we're getting to a point where the British government are now arguing over incentivizing people for getting tested positive. £500 apparently, according to Matt Hancock. He wants to give people £500 every time you test positive. Every time you have a new case, you will be incentivized. Again, the idea apparently is that if you test positive, you have to self-isolate and you need some sort of financial support. So if you see it from that perspective, okay. I mean, firstly, the perspective of where is the money coming from, that's a whole different issue. But the fact that you're incentivizing people, you do realize what's going to happen. There will be a lot of young people who are just going to go and get it on purpose. So they could just be at home. They're still going to do their illegal secret gatherings in their houses. And yeah, they'll get free money. This is terrible. Luckily, Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak have slammed this idea. So this is just absolutely terrible. Matt Hancock, this is the guy that came up with the the idea of a Matt Hancock app. He should not be in charge of any direction in terms of the governance in this country. Now, Number 10 source has said that if this was Matt's bright idea for getting the Prime Minister to sign up for it, he hasn't been paying attention. Boris hates feeling like that he's been bound into anything. Well, clearly, we've seen over the last few months. That's one issue. The second problem is the cost, as I said. Apparently, this would cost, even a one-off payment will cost, but I was going to say the NHS, but actually the Treasury, £453 million a week. just a week. So this is actually Matt Hancock completely showing how clueless he is in terms of how we should be managing this whole thing. So I'm glad that he's not actually party leader and Prime Minister. So this is all these chaotic situations is because of China, because of one decision that they made. And we are going through an issue where in the West, where we are dealing with the Chinese threat, we are dealing with socialism coming back. We're also dealing with, culture battles. Since the last summer that we had, when the BLM came out and all the others came out, fueled by a lot of hatred and division, they went after our statues and they went after our culture and British history. We were so, well, why we? I mean, people in the establishment were so distracted by other things that they were really complacent at first. Now, as we reported on this channel a few days ago, the British government and Boris Johnson want to protect our statues and our street names. Guido Fawkes have come up with a list of 150 statues and street names that are currently at risk. This is the list, obviously you can see that my favourite, obviously some of them are your obvious ones, your Cecil Rhodes and your Nelson statue. Cromwell statue is being targeted by Lord Adonis. Of all people, he's gone after Cromwell. I mean, Cromwell, I'm not a big fan because, I don't like dictators, but the statue is there for different reasons. The statue there is there for the movement he started at first to enter Parliament. But Lord Adonis doesn't like it. He wants to bring it down. So we have a big list of 150 statues and street names that will be at risk, and the government have said they're going to protect it. This is all happening at the same time when the discussion about Churchill is coming back and the Churchill statue, and Lisa Nandy has come out to attack Boris Johnson, saying that Boris Johnson defending Winston Churchill is on the same level as Donald Trump defending Charlottesville. What happened in Charlottesville back in 2017-18. Are you joking? So this is what Lisa Nandy has said. So if you, as Prime Minister, want to protect Winston Churchill and the statue of Churchill, then you're basically evil. That's what it is. Also, the whole issue of Charlottesville has always been complicated anyway. But considering her own boss, Sir Keir Starmer, has been quite openly proud of defending Winston Churchill because he doesn't want to lose all the other votes. So I'm not really sure if Lisa Nandy has had any discussion with Sir Keir Starmer. Maybe she's reading too much of The Independent, because The Independent have published this article, this whole page full of letters. All these lefties sending letters to the Independent about how protecting our statues is not defending British history. I'm not going to show you all these letters, but just a couple of them. Because so Nick Donnelly from Dorset saying that protecting statues of slave traders is not defending British history, and just highlighting British nostalgia. Okay, fine. The next one, Dave Baldock from Stafford, saying that the government's first legislative response to the concerns raised by the BLM movement is to protect lumps of metal and stone. Okay, firstly, concerns raised by the BLM movement. And when it comes to legislation, are you joking? I mean, the only thing they had was, anything that they raised was quite violent, and they wanted to bring down, all the structures of our system. And they say that, the government should have responded, and their first legislative response is to protect metal and stone. Who are these people? I don't even know why I'm wasting my time showing you these letters, so I'm not going to do that. Let's just focus on how the fact that we are now at risk from various angles. You got the CCP, you got these weirdos, focusing on the culture battles, and you got obviously Joe Biden, clearly going to be closer to the European Union than the United Kingdom, and everything else, and the Labour Party, and we don't even know what the Tory Party is up to. It doesn't really matter because it's still 2021, it's still the beginning of the year. We're going to focus on the positives. I can still see the light at the end of the tunnel. Thanks again for watching. I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who've been obviously watching this channel, especially the members of the channel. Over the last week, we had a lot of you joining as members. So I want to say a big thank you. It's because of you guys that we can continue our work, and obviously everyone. But as I said yesterday, YouTube have been slightly difficult recently. So all the people who've been signing up as member, but also supporting us via PayPal and merchandise, big thank you. And just a quick message to all the members. As you know, we do have our weekly Q&As on Sundays, which I always post on the community tab on the channel. But also don't forget, we do have our every Wednesday Zoom video calls. Those actually sell out. They're free to obviously sign up because you're a member. They sell out really fast. I think we still have a few places left. So I'm going to, as a reminder, post it on the community tab again on the channel. Just check it out. Sign up as soon as possible for the next Wednesday. And for everybody else, you know, we haven't forgotten you. We have started doing our live streams. We did one last Saturday, and a lot of you joined. It was actually quite good because we did it an hour and a half. We talked about politics. We got to know you. You know, you asked some random personal questions. That was really fun. I think most of you said that it will be good to do it again Saturday evening. So hopefully we're going to bring it back this Saturday as well. This is for subscribers and supporters in general, members, so it's for everyone, open to all. The other thing I wanted to say before we finish is to be able to obviously continue our community as a family. I do want to create a new network, and then for everyone again, we're going to have a section for subscribers and also supporters on Discord. For those of you who don't know, Discord is basically like a messaging board sort of platform where we could have different pages where we can chat with each other. You can obviously talk to each other like the comment section, but you know, more directly. I will be there. You could actually send your suggestions, any news that you have that you want me to be aware of. You could post there, and we could, you know, even hold like small video call sessions and live Q&As. So that will be, hopefully, I'm going to look into it. It's called Discord. If you don't know, just check it out as well. I'm going to look into it and hopefully set that up for the members of the channel, but also subscribers in general, so that you guys know that how much I appreciate your support throughout, you know, the last couple of years and going forward as well. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as usual. Click on the notification bell and click on all, not personalized. I'm Tousi, and I'll see you guys in the next video.